You are about to learn how to make a vegan, raw, superfood pie that's full of nourishing greens that will help you detox and give you that glow of a goddess. And oh yeah, this is good for the guys too. We're gonna make this fantastic recipe. Welcome to another episode of Easy Upgrades from the Cellar. My name is Malcolm Saunders. I love doing these. I love sharing these little things that are easy that you can add in. Some of the recipes you're gonna wanna do every single day. They are just that fantastic. And others, it's kind of those special treats, those special occasions, the time of year. And that's absolutely what this recipe is about. I mean, you could eat every day. I leave that to you. But for sure, are you feeling, it's March, I mean, come on, especially if you're in Calgary, it's been a long winter. Let's face it, who's with me? Type down below if it's been a long winter for you and you are ready to activate spring. If you're ready to activate spring, this is a fantastic recipe that will get you in the flow, get you in the mood. You're gonna bring in that clean green energy, revitalize, refresh, restore. That's what this recipe is all about. Super simple, super easy to make, and it's absolutely delicious. And for yourself, for your kids, for your partners, the ability to pack in the greens, to have as much clean green superfood as we do in this pie is absolutely remarkable. It's totally amazing, especially for how well it tastes. So the main kind of flavor, the main recipe we're basing off of is like a key lime pie. So imagine the flavor of key lime pie, but done with some of the best fats, right? Nourishing fats that are gonna give you the energy. And even if you're on keto, if that's how you're playing your diet these days, this recipe will work as well, so you can modify as you see fit. But I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how I've been creating it for years and just loving this pie. So we call it the Green Goddess because it's got all those wonderful greens. It's a nice, gentle detox in a good whole food way, and it's gonna help you glow, give that glowing skin, and again, that feeling of freshness, the feeling of vitality that greens give us. And like all the recipes I love to share, this is a template, it's an idea, it's a concept, and you can vary it however you like. So use the ingredients that you have on hand, use the sweetener that you want to use, choose the type of greens that you feel called to. I'm going to talk about a couple of different ones and reasons why you might use one or over another, as well as a particular green powder not to use as well. Okay, I did this a few weeks ago where I did this recipe and I was like, oh, that would be a really good green to add in, or at least so I thought, and it didn't turn out so well. So stay tuned for that. We want to give you the the green not to add. It just didn't work out. So anyways, let's carry on. Let's dive right into it. So this is a pie. It's all raw, it's all vegan, and I used to make tons of these way back in the day. I was a raw food eater and chef for a number of years. It was great. I mean, really good for the time that I was involved in it, and learn a lot of great recipes. And I think one of the kind of where that raw vegan cuisine can excel is in its desserts. I mean, there are so many desserts, so many variations, and they're all tasty, they're all wonderful. And it really allows one, especially someone coming from maybe mainstream eating, to really truly upgrade, right? Because especially when you look at, desserts that are out there today, it's like terrible fats, it's really bad sugars. So if we can have replacements and upgrades for that and have it just look and taste just as good, then hey, that is an amazing win. And that's again what I call an easy upgrade. These things that you can slip in, you can add in to yourself and anyone else's diet without having to kind of flip things over, without trying to redo or change your life, reorientate your diet, everything. We want simple upgrades, simple add-ins, and that's what this recipe is all about. So we're going to do the crust first, and then we're going to let it chill, then I'm going to make a filling, and that's how this whole pie is going to come together. So today we are going for the key lime pie, that flavor, adding in goodness, adding in greens, and we're calling it the Green Goddess, right? To help you detox, help you give you that glow. So the base of the crust, we're going to prepare that first. That is green too. Everything about this recipe is about adding in, maximizing that green nutrition. We're gonna do coconut flakes, and here's just a little heads up. Again, I'm talking about all those raw vegan recipes, the pies, the desserts, the this, the that. Honestly, a lot of them I found in the end to be a little bit heavy, right? A lot of them were like nuts, almonds, cashews, walnut, dried fruit. And that's okay in certain amounts, but I found for me eventually a little heavy on the digestion. But one that always worked, one that I really loved, was able to digest and utilize the energy from, is coconut. So coconut flakes, wonderful. We know how good those fats are we can get from coconut, how it can be such a great source of energy, and as well as fiber as well. So that's going to be our base, and I'm going to do 1.5 cups of coconut flakes, and I'm going to mix those with hemp seeds. I love hemp seeds. Hemp seeds were probably, what I like to say, maybe the first quote-unquote superfood that I began eating. And man, especially as a vegetarian, did it ever change my world? I hated that question. Where do you get your protein? And honestly, I could look back on it now and I was like, wow, I really was starving for protein. And not only protein, but essential fatty acids, the omega-3s, right? And it was hemp seeds got into that really just blew me away in terms of their protein, in terms of the essential fatty acid content, plus very easily digestible. They're a complete protein. They have the chlorophyll, they've got the omega-3s, they have omega-6, the GLA, the gamma linoleic acid. Wonderful, wonderful food. Very kind of non-allergenic, and they're not heavy, right? So along with the coconut, along with the hemp, that's really what we're going for here, is a nice, light, easy to digest base. So 1.5 cups of coconut flakes, 1/2 cup of hemp seeds. I'm going to put that in. And so as I'm building this, everything is just going to go in all at once, and then it's going to get blended up together. So go ahead and just be measuring out, throwing everything into your food processor, and then once it's all in there, we're just going to start to blend. 1 tablespoon of lucuma. Lucuma is a fruit that's been dried and powdered from South America, in particular Peru. And interesting enough, we have had trouble bringing in the lucuma in the last couple of weeks because there's been what was it? The potato farmers in Peru, interesting enough, they were disrupting the supply chain of not just potatoes, but lucuma got caught in there as well. So we've got some back in stock, but it's been kind of touch and go the last few weeks. And I know that's become a staple for a lot of us working with it in elixirs. And it's because it's just like the flavor of it, how it mixes into a recipe, really fantastic. All right, so there's our lucuma. Now we're going to do a little bit of coconut oil and a little bit of honey. Now, these two ingredients here, both the coconut oil and the coconut honey, what they're going to do is they're going to help not only add to the flavor, add to the nutrition, but it's also going to help give us a little bit of stick when we go ahead and press this into a pie plate. So that's about a tablespoon. Maybe that's a little more than a tablespoon. Recipe calls for a tablespoon, but hey, I never go by recipes, so approximately, we got our tablespoon of coconut oil in there. Next, we're going to add in our 2 tablespoons of honey. So again, this is going to be the flavor, a little bit of sweetness, but also again, for a crust, to be able to help have it stick together, be held together, so we can cut it, so we can serve it. The honey and the coconut oil are going to play very key roles in that. All right, so there's 1 tablespoon. There's 2, and it goes. Now I'm going to add just a touch of salt. I like salt, just kind of helps bring up and round out the flavors. Plus, when you're choosing a really nice high quality rock salt or sea salt, it gives you those micro and trace minerals that are in there. Very key, very essential. All right, next one, lime zest. Now, in the filling part, we need 3/4 cups of lime juice, and I'll get to that. So first of all, we can get our lime zest in there, going into the crust. So I've got a little microplane. These things are awesome. You can see it finely grates the outer skin of the lime. These microplanes are really great for nutmeg and all kinds of other spices too. So yeah, I highly recommend working with one of these. If not, you can use a grater, however you want to get that in there. There's our lime zest. I even had a little bit pre-done from yesterday, so that'll top me up the rest of the way, because this recipe again calls for 1 teaspoon of lime zest. Now the last ingredient, this is where you can add in any kinds of green superfood powders, and we've got lots to choose from here. So we could do Spirulina. Fantastic, amazing. It is 65% protein, very high in chlorophyll. So that's the green pigment, right? When we talk about greens, when we talk about, eating our greens like kale, like wheatgrass, it's that green pigment known as chlorophyll that we want to get after. It is nature's detoxifier. Fantastic. Lots of magnesium. So spirulina is very high in chlorophyll, and just by adding a little bit here, so 2 teaspoons is like the total amount that we want in our pie crust, and we can mix and match. We can pick and choose what we want. If you've got spirulina on hand, you're loving that, in it goes. Dropping stuff here. Another microalgae you might want to choose is something called chlorella. Chlorella, another microalgae, just like spirulina. It's a single-celled algae that grows in fresh water, and again, density of this green pigment, this chlorophyll. Both spirulina and chlorella have far more green, far more chlorophyll than even wheatgrass, which we think is pretty high, pretty up there on the green spectrum. I've heard it that chlorella has anywhere from 10 to 12% chlorophyll, where wheatgrass is in around 1 or 2%. So 10, 12 times the amount of chlorophyll in the chlorella. And that chlorophyll, again, great detoxifier, super nourishing, and gives us that clean green energy along with the protein, along with the vitamins, along with the minerals, everything that it comes with, and is in fact quite easily digested. Typically comes in a powder. You can get it as tablets. Here I'm just using the powder. In it goes. And other options you can use, there are grass juice powders. So this one here is alfalfa, barley, kamut, oat, and wheatgrass. And it's particularly the grass juice, not necessarily the fiber. The fiber itself, we can't digest grasses. We need it to be juiced and then dried into a powder. So that's what we have here. And that can be added in. So again, use whatever you have, whatever you're inspired. We're kind of going for that 2 teaspoons up to a tablespoon amount. You can make this as green as you like. And the third one I'm going to add in, the fourth, I guess, because we have our algae, we have our grass juices. Now I'm putting in moringa. Moringa powder, another amazing green superfood, where cultures around the world that have been consuming it, it's kind of gotten the name the tree of life, just like coconut, just like a lot of things, hemp seeds even, right? Many cultures that have used and relied on these foods revered them, and that's a good sign. That's a clue for us that it's got that long track, that long history of use, and we can follow suit and gain those benefits. So moringa, again, another one that's been named the tree of life. This is the leaf that's just been dried and powdered, super high in vitamins and minerals, and wonderful to add in. All right, so that is our base. So now everything's in the food processor. What we need to do is just go ahead, turn that on to blend, and as I'm letting that blend up, you'll notice we want to make sure that we blend things well and almost to the point where it begins to kind of start to stick. That's how long I'm going to let that spin for. So I'm going to turn it on, and then we'll come back in a moment once it's ready. Okay, it's still getting there, but you might notice that you might have a little bit stuck to the edges, especially from the honey, maybe from the coconut oil. So just kind of take that off the edge, give everything a little mix around, and turn it back on and let it spin some more. So I can still see coconut flakes in there. So we're about halfway to blending. Like I say, we want to make sure this gets well ground, well mixed, and almost to the point where it begins to ball together. All right, so one kind of test is you can just pick it up, feel it, squish it together, and if it's starting to kind of stick and ball a little bit, then you've got that right consistency. I'm going to let this go just a touch longer. As it grinds, it begins to pull those oils out, and that's what we want. We want the coconut oil, the honey to mix with the oils from the hemp and the coconut flakes, be able to pull out, and that's what's going to give us that stick and that bind. All right, looking good enough here. So now we take that and we're going to put it into a pie plate. So whatever you got for a pie plate, it could be a springform pan, could just be a glass, ceramic, whatever you got, dump all that in. And now we spread it out and pack it in. So if you have blended it well enough, you'll notice that it's going to start to be a little bit sticky, and it can easily form into the pan, no problem. And our next step will be then to put that into the fridge. So as we've drawn those oils out, as we've warmed it up, mixed and blended all that together, then as it goes into the fridge, that's going to give it a nice sticking consistency that will give us a pie crust that can be cut and served without crumbling apart, right? Obviously, traditional pie crust with wheat, it's the gluten that does that job. Here, we're mixing the fats and the sweetener of the honey there to do that job for us. In other raw vegan recipes like raw pies, like I mentioned before, it's a combination of a nut and a dried fruit, let's say almonds and dates, and it's by the blending of those two together in the same way, the fats and the sugars, that gives you that stick. So we're just doing a little alternate. Again, what I feel is a little bit lighter, a little bit more digestible with the coconut and the hemp, and we can still get that same consistency. So there we are, that's ready. We're gonna pop that into the fridge, let that set, and as it is, now we can work on our next step, which is the filling. Okay, in it goes, it's in the fridge. Move this to the side now. We're going to use the blender. And actually, one thing really quickly here, so leave your food processor out. You don't even need to clean out all the little bits, but you want to make sure everything's into the pie. But if you have a little bit of coconut or hemp seeds still kicking around in your food processor, don't worry about it. But the next thing is for our filling, we need a 1 cup of packed parsley. Now, I took a whole entire head and I just pre-did it so we could get a little quicker through this live video, and I put it into the food processor to chop it up. So that's already been done for me. When you're making it at this stage, before you put away your food processor and do the cleaning, after you've done your crust, throw in your big head of parsley, chop it all up, and then you'll have quite easily and quickly your 1 cup of packed parsley, which we need for the next step. All right, so grab a blender, and now we're gonna do the filling here. So for the filling, more green, and this is really where we're gonna get that delicious flavor. So what we're starting off with is 3/4 of a cup of lime juice. So take those limes that you had before, now juice them up. I've done that ahead of time just to make this process quick and easy for us as you guys are watching at home. So there is a 3/4 cup of lime juice. That goes straight into the blender. Next, we got our 1 cup of parsley, right? Parsley's amazing. Love the flavor, and we know how wonderful and nutritious it is. So in it goes. Again, another one that's good for the detox, good for that wonderful chlorophyll. That's going in. A little bit of sweetener here. So this is maker's choice on how sweet you would like it to make it, and any type of sweetener that you want. I'm going to keep going with the honey theme because I love honey, and I'm going to do about 3 tablespoons. So that's about a 1/4 cup there. Of course, if you want to make this keto, if you want to kind of do more low glycemic, you can choose anything you like. That might be stevia, right? Stevia would definitely fit within our whole green theme. You can use a stevia extract or the stevia leaf, which is dried and powdered and just comes as a dried green powder. So that could be your sweetener. Of course, stevia, totally different measurements. Do not put in as much as you would honey. It's got a very distinct flavor, and some people say a bit of an aftertaste. Some love it, some don't. Typically when I'm doing stevia, I might add just a little bit, and I might try and even blend it with another sweetener itself. So I'm going for honey, and that's what's gone in here. A little bit of lucuma, 3 tablespoons of that. So again, gonna add a little bit of sweetness, but also adds a nice bit of body to it, and it's gonna help emulsify some of the fats as well as some of the liquid that's going in there. So that's 3 tablespoons of lucuma that's going in to this recipe. Now next, it calls for 2 tablespoons coconut oil, 1/3 of a cup of cacao butter and 1/4 cup of coconut butter. Now those 3 ingredients there, that's the fat. That's the wonderful kind of nourishing fats that we're going to get. They're going to give us that energy. It's going to give us that flavor. Now what I do is I'll put them all into a bowl and just a double boiler, melt them all together. Especially that cacao butter, it needs to be pre-melted, and you might as well throw in the coconut oil and the coconut butter into that as well. So that's what I've got here. I use some coconut oil, I use some coconut butter, and then I use good old cacao butter for that nice, like rich, like almost white chocolate like flavor. Now they're going in warm, they're going in melted, just so it blends in very well and can mix no problem. And then as that sets, right, so we're going to blend all this up, we're going to put it into our base, and as we throw it into the freezer and it gets cool and it chills again, that's what's going to give us that nice consistency, the solidity, the substance to the pie. Here we go. At this stage, you can come back to any of these greens powders and add a little bit more, right? So that wasn't a part of my original recipe, but I thought, hey, why not? We got parsley in there, let's add a little more moringa. We've got our parsley, our moringa, let's add a little bit more spirulina. So you can play with the flavor and the depth of green by adding more even at this stage as well. Okay, a little bit of salt if you want. You can do a little vanilla. Everything's in the blender now. Now we're gonna put on the lid, spin this up, get a nice good blend. Now you could, if you want, parsley I think is a great one, really works well in this. You could use other types of greens like spinach or kale. Yeah, play with it. I haven't done too much. I've been really happy with the parsley, and so that's kind of been my go-to in this recipe. Let me give it a quick blend. All right, one green that did not work, which I thought was going to be amazing. We did a matcha cheesecake, and very similar style of how to build it. And in the end, it just wasn't good. It was just like, I don't know why, but you might want to try. However, my recommendation, even though matcha is wonderful, even though there has that potential, it just didn't work. The flavor wasn't there. That's what we were trying to use as a green. And yeah, I wouldn't do it again. Wouldn't recommend it. Maybe I didn't add enough sweetener to kind of, you know, take the predominant place and flavor of that pie. But anyways, I would pass on the matcha. Leave those for your elixirs and add in any of these other ones that I've suggested for your pie. Okay, so we got that blended up. Now we're gonna pull out the crust. All right, now we're doing this live, so typically I might give that a little bit longer to set. That was only in probably less than 5 minutes. Maybe I'd give it 10, 15, and you should have a nice kind of solid base there. So at this stage, we take our filling and then we pour it in. All right, look at that. So we get that in and we're gonna spread that around, and we're gonna put it back in the fridge because that is what's gonna make it set and give us that nice consistency. All right, spreading that around. Make sure you get all that green goodness out of the bottom of the blender. All right, and you can decorate it either before or after it sets, depending on what you'd want to put in there. That could be dried fruits. It could be more green things, but you know, I was playing and experimenting with other colors like freeze-dried strawberries, raspberries, cherries, and when you got that contrast of the red and the green, or you do red and purple, it really makes those colors pop. And even white, right? A little bit of hemp seeds, decorate it with a wedge of lime. That can always work. That's beautiful too. So go ahead, have fun, be artistic, be creative. My friend Julia Corbett, the dessert chef, Dessert Alchemy was something she was running with for a while. She put out a book called Raw Pie Mandalas, and absolutely beautiful pictures. I'm sure some of you have seen it. You can check out some of the pictures that she had online. We're making these absolutely gorgeous pies and how she would decorate them, because that's really part of the eating experience, isn't it? We want to have something that's beautiful, that inspires us. And especially if you're trying to, you know, depending on who you're serving this to, right? Not everyone's going to be that open off the top. receptive to green, but if you can make it look beautiful and of course taste good, then you've got them. All right, so let that kind of settle in, and then we put it into the fridge. And I'll pull one out that we did earlier. So we've already dug into this, but there's one that we did yesterday. Absolutely delicious. You can cut it up into slices like we did, plate it beautifully however you can, and there we go. There's the Green Goddess detox pie, full of these nourishing greens. Play with it, come up with your own versions, experiment. You can make it as sweet as you like, or try and go lower on the sweet end like that lime really comes through. That lime is just wonderful. Again, this is a green pie. We're bringing in the energy of spring. We're bringing in that green goodness that's going to help us detox, rejuvenate, restore, and move forward into life with zest and passion. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thanks for watching. Enjoy, have fun, and we'll see you on the next one.